Hello, everyone, and welcome to this podcast from the Light Review. I'm happy to welcome my good friend Dan Griffiths from Tamlite, and we're going to be talking. This is going to be a nice series of just technical chats, or maybe semi-technical chats, or occasionally not technical chats at all, about the things that are up for the business, what it is that we're up to, and what is it that people keep tapping us on the shoulder and tugging at our sleeves and say, "Oi, can you tell us a bit about this? What's this all about?" So, Dan, we decided that we were going to start, and this is going to be a two-header. So this is one of two, because we're trying to limit these to sort of 10, 15 minutes, which is just about how long it takes to drink a decent cup of coffee. Dark skies, Dan.
Yes.
Let's stick with some of the principles, shall we? Because
hmm
once we sort of start diving deep into what the resolution of dark skies and lighting is all about, that's why we're doing the second one. But from where you're sitting and from the conversations that you're having, where are we with dark skies? And maybe just for those people who've been living under a rock or in a cave for the last couple of years, just explain to us what we mean by dark skies.
Sure. So, dark sky for us in the industry is obviously natural skies, no artificial illumination or light pollution. Um, it's something, particularly for me, I'm quite passionate about and I believe in. So, it's multifolded. A simplistic view is that obviously from us, from a luminaire manufacturing and design point of view, it's really minimizing light going in the wrong places. Obviously, no light going upwards, but also minimizing obtrusive light or any lighting that can damage areas, as well as, when we get into a deeper dive of color spectrums and everything else, there's all that to go with it. But simplistically, that is what we're doing.
When this all started, it was the astronomers, wasn't it? It was the people who actually sort of go out and play in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And they were complaining about the amount of light that was being bounced back out of the atmosphere. But that argument has shifted now, isn't it? I mean, we still care about astronomers, of course we do, but there just aren't many of them, and there's a lot more of us out there who can benefit from some kind of dark skies system of nighttime lighting. So
Yeah.
again, where's it shifted to? We're not on mountaintops anymore. We're not sort of trying to keep the observatories dark. We're talking about the difference. And for you're there in Redditch.
Mhm.
Birmingham's up the road from you, but down the road we've got the Malverns, and so you've got everything around there, all kinds of different nighttime conditions.
And I think you're spot on with that. I think originally uh, everything was very focused astronomically, seeing the stars, clear skies, and but the more and more that this has really evolved, it's trying to equate for where we are in Malvern or Shropshire, Telford based particularly, lots of natural wildlife, lots of elements that we don't want to affect. And I think the truth is a lot of it is kind of fell from lighting abuse. We're to blame in the lighting industry. You know, with colour temperatures, bad lighting, um, products, particularly glare, you know, even in Birmingham, dark skies are maybe not as prevalent because there's going to be a lot more light pollution, but that doesn't mean that that you should give up on having the best lighting principles. And that's something that we've really tried to embrace, and the industry's embracing, I think, particularly now of, let's put the light in the right place. Let's make sure it's the right color. Let's make sure we're not causing nuisance lighting or intrusive lighting for anyone, uh, animals and people.
With I've heard all kinds of arguments for all sorts of different kinds of people. It's always been easy, I think, to imagine being able to control light pollution when you're in a rural area, mainly because there's very few people living there, and consequently there's not that much lighting. But at the
Mhm.
same time, I've heard arguments from people based in the city who are trying to get the authorities to control the spread of light, because the people who are in the countryside are going, well, why can't we have light? You've got light, you can walk down the street. We have to take our torches with us. But are you seeing any of that? Are you seeing anything where that argument is coming to the fore?
I think definitely. I mean, I think we see it as a department. So I look after, as well as looking after product design, I look after lighting design. Um, so, even anecdotally myself, I was up in Bamborough, will not see a light. Uh, real dark sky. But if you're in Birmingham or surrounding areas, there's still a lot of wildlife, still a lot of greenery. Still, it's not an excuse for light pollution. And I think we see a lot more, particularly consultant led, I would say. Really trying to work on where the lighting going. I think we see that in the industry of controlling the optics better, controlling the glare better, having shields. Yes, we can all make great optics, but that doesn't mean that there's not extenuating circumstances that might arise. So, with dark skies, the option to have extra shields that you can place onto fittings, it just kind of balances that out a little bit more. But I think for us, we're kind of seeing it in all areas. Education is probably the biggest growth sector we've really seen for dark sky compliant lighting.
Yeah.
Or at least making sure the upward light is to a minimum.
Yeah, a pal of mine would like to educate his next door neighbour who lives opposite, who's bought a fitting with pretty decent optics, but it would help if he'd actually installed it so the light was going downwards and not right across the street.
That's the biggest challenge.
Yeah, that's the one, isn't it? Yeah. We're seeing all sorts of strange initiatives. I know that there are bits of Worcestershire where the street lighting is red.
Correct, yeah.
Which, when you first come across that, you go, "That's the craziest thing I've ever heard of."
Mm-hmm.
And it I suppose, in a sense, it might sound a little bit fundamentalist to go that way, but I suppose if we go back 50 years to low pressure sodium, before your time, Dan, when when we had monochromatic light where you couldn't tell what colour car you were driving. So maybe it's not so different. It's just that we've just got a new generation of people with a new aim in view, and we shouldn't be surprised if we see red, or indeed going back to amber street lighting conditions.
Yeah, I think definitely. So I've drove past that road in Boston many times, and like you said, the first time you do, you go, "This is weird." But obviously, being in lighting, we kind of know why it's there. But I think you're spot on. High pressure sodium. They've got the amber light. I think is the biggest change that we've started to see coming back within the industry. The warmer color temperatures, and rightly so. I think the industry, if we like, probably abused the color temperatures a little bit over the past for chasing efficacy gains mainly, and everything's always cyclical. You go one way, it's efficacy, and then you kind of come back to your lighting design principles of, okay, this isn't good, this isn't what we want. We need to bring this back and get it under control.
Yeah, I have to say that a bit being of an age that I can remember high pressure mercury and even those occasional fluorescent tubes. And when people said, we've never done this before, we've always done this before, and it's always been done for cost reasons. Yeah. It costs a fortune to provide street lighting, and so if you can gain, I get it, I absolutely get it, but it's good that in the last 20 years, I suppose, we've started to look at quality of light as well. Here's the thing that excited me. I saw a report about. There's a village called Hornby up in North Yorkshire on the moors, and I know it. I've been there, and they've managed to get the whole of the village. It's not a very big place, but they've managed to get the whole of the village to sign up to dark skies appropriate lighting. That's private schemes. That's public lighting as well, and it seems a great initiative. And of course, and there you are. You're in the middle, and you are in the middle of the North York Moors. So it's a beautiful sort of dark space. On the other hand, we get the people in France who decided to turn all the lights off in Paris once it got dark. And I'm looking. There's on one hand we get Hornby, and on the other hand we get Paris. And How do we bring these two things together? How would we bring together Malvern and Birmingham city centre on the same initiative? So, you're a product designer and a lighting designer, and people are knocking on your door. Have we got any idea? Is there a clue? Are there pathways being created for this?
I think it's a great question. I think, you know, on multiple fronts with this, where you've got dark sky compliant lighting, and like you said with the Yorkshire Dove in pitch black, I think it's got to be approached twofold. Commercially, I think where we look at that, it's if you can put appropriate lighting in, because ultimately exterior lighting exists for safety. And I think we can't go too far one way and people not feel safe, particularly in bigger cities. I think that's very important. But we can have lights dim down, we can add sensors, we can minimize the impact on the environment that way, and making sure we've got the correct light. I think the biggest challenge to the industry, personally, is domestic lighting. I mentioned to you, obviously, I went to Bamborough, pitch black, beautiful, except they had two lanterns on the side of a cottage, booming the light up into the sky. And I think that's the balance in the sector that probably needs a bigger focus of, those commodity products that domestic users will buy that will just throw the light everywhere, like you said with the floodlight, angled completely wrong. It's that education that's needed for that sector particularly, I think is key.
I wonder how we do that then. I wonder how we teach people. It's at the moment it seems to be you do it as a negative response. So my pal in the next village, I've said to him, just go and knock on his door and just suggest that. But basically what you're doing is saying, you're not doing it right. You need to make a change. Yeah. And my brother-in-law lives opposite a garage on the edge of Dartmoor, and they put some new forecourt lighting in. And yes, it was lighting straight away across the road, and it was up the hill, and it was going in the bedrooms. And so, I wrote a letter. But of course, what was I writing? I was writing a letter saying, we're going to report you to the council unless you do something about this. But the whole thing about education is to try and get to people before we get that far, isn't it? It's that idea of saying, we'd like to show you something. Wouldn't this be nice? I'd love to take a village. I'd love to take a place like Hornby and turn it into a dark skies appropriate setting. So if you've got any villages around you and you can go and talk to the parish council, maybe we should be doing something like that.
It's a fair point, John. I think that's we are lucky in a way that dark sky now is getting more screen time, if you like, than it's ever had before, which is only going to help and assist. But it's fundamentally, it's cart and horse, chicken and egg, whichever way you like. People can make domestic dark sky products, but unless people are asking and wanting that, it's going to be challenging. But we can only push further, show examples to the industry, to people. And I think once you kind of experience dark sky, once you take into account animal well-being, our own well-being, particularly if it's very heavy blue light, that's got to be driven by councils first and foremost, I think, commercially, and then we've got to pick that up domestically with some guidelines that are easy to understand and some messages. But will someone still chuck a 100-watt flood on the side of the building for their house when they need a 10-watt asymmetric? That's the challenge.
That is the challenge, isn't it? Look, I'll tell you what we'll do. I'm just sort of keeping an eye on the time. I think we're just about ready to open that door and go and do that sort of deeper dive into the how-tos. Yeah. So let's wrap this one up. And I think that's a fantastic opener. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for your time, and we'll catch you on the next one. So keep an eye on the Light Review podcasts. Keep an eye on things with me and Dan talking about this kind of stuff, and we'll be ready for the next one. Thank you very much.
Thank you.